My stepmother makes me work a lot. A little girl goes to the police station and says, rain poured down in heavy sheets, drenching the quiet streets, as a little girl walked alone under the dim glow of flickering streetlights. Her tiny feet splashed through puddles, her thin jacket barely shielding her from the cold. She shivered, wrapping her arms around herself, but she kept moving, her eyes fixed ahead. The police station was just a few steps away. She could see the bright lights inside, the warmth spilling out onto the wet pavement. Taking a deep breath, she pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped inside. The officers turned to look at her, their conversations pausing. A child alone at this hour, soaked to the bone. Something was wrong. One of them, a kind-looking man with graying hair, knelt down to her level. Sweetheart, are you lost? He asked gently. The girl shook her head, water dripping from her tangled hair. Her voice trembled, but there was a quiet determination in her eyes. I need help, she whispered. My stepmother makes me work a lot. I can't take it anymore. The officer exchanged glances with his colleagues. A woman in uniform stepped forward, crouching beside the girl. What's your name, honey? She asked, softly. Emma, the girl murmured, hugging herself tighter. Please don't send me back. The officer frowned. What do you mean, Emma? Can you tell us what's happening? Emma hesitated, her small hands clenching into fists. She wanted to be strong. She had practiced what she would say over and over in her head. But now that she was here, the words felt stuck. She could still hear her stepmother's voice, sharp and demanding, ringing in her ears. Get up, Emma! You're not done yet! You think food comes for free? Stop crying and finish your chores. Her hands trembled as she took a shaky breath. She makes me do everything, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I wake up before the sun. I clean the whole house, wash the dishes, do the laundry, cook the food. She never lets me rest. If I don't finish, she yells. She says I don't deserve anything, that I'm useless. Emma swallowed hard. I don't go to school anymore. She told them I was sick, but I'm not sick. She won't let me go. The room fell silent. The officers listened intently, their expressions shifting from concern to something heavier. Emma bit her lip, suddenly afraid. Had she made a mistake coming here? Would they believe her? What if they sent her back? She had nowhere else to go. The woman officer reached for a blanket and draped it over Emma's small shoulders. You did the right thing coming here, she said gently. You're safe now. Emma's eyes filled with tears, but she held them back. She wanted to believe it. She really did. But somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, what if nothing changed? What if they didn't believe her? What if her stepmother found her and took her back? She squeezed her hands together, trying to hold on to the tiny spark of hope that had led her here. The night wasn't over yet, and neither was her story. Emma sat in the warm police station, the soft blanket wrapped around her small frame, but she still felt cold. The woman officer, whose name was Officer Riley, handed her a cup of hot chocolate. Emma hesitated before wrapping her fingers around it, the warmth seeping into her hands. She took a small sip, but the sweetness did nothing to calm the storm inside her. Emma, can you tell us more about your stepmother? Officer Riley asked, gently. Emma lowered her eyes to the cup in her hands. Her name is Linda, she said quietly. She married my dad after my mom was gone. Her throat tightened, but she forced herself to continue. At first, she was nice. She would brush my hair, pack my lunch for school. She smiled a lot. But after he went away, everything changed. Officer Riley and the other officer, the one with graying hair named Officer Daniels, exchanged a glance. "Where is your dad now?" Officer Daniels asked. Emma's grip on the cup tightened. He got sick. He was in the hospital for a long time." She paused, her voice barely above a whisper. "And then one day, he didn't come back." Silence filled the room. Emma stared at the steam rising from the cup. She didn't like talking about it. Whenever she thought about her dad, it felt like someone was squeezing her chest, making it hard to breathe. After a moment, Officer Riley spoke softly. "I'm really sorry, Emma." Emma gave a small nod, but she didn't lift her head. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to say. People always said they were sorry, but it didn't change anything. Her dad was gone, and she was stuck with Linda. "Did your stepmother start treating you badly after your father passed?" Officer Daniels asked, his voice calm but serious. Emma nodded slowly. "At first, it was little things. She stopped making my lunch. She wouldn't talk to me much. Then she made me do all the chores. It got worse and worse. She said I had to earn my place, that I had to work for everything. But no matter what I did, it was never enough." Officer Riley frowned. "What about food, Emma? Did she feed you?" Emma hesitated. "Sometimes. If I finished all my work, but if I didn't, she said I didn't deserve to eat." She swallowed, her voice shaking. "I got really hungry sometimes. I would sneak into the kitchen at night, but if she caught me..." Emma trailed off, her body tensing at the memory. Officer Riley reached out, placing a gentle hand on Emma's. "You're safe now," she reminded her. "You don't have to go back there." Emma wanted to believe her, but doubt still gnawed at her heart. "But what if she finds me? What if she says I'm lying?" Officer Daniels leaned forward. "Emma, we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We just need you to help us understand everything so we can protect you." Emma hesitated, then took a deep breath. "There's something else," she whispered. Officer Riley and Officer Daniels waited patiently, sensing her hesitation. Emma's fingers tightened around the cup. "There's a little boy, my stepbrother. His name is Noah. He's only 4. Her voice wavered. "She treats him differently. She buys him new clothes, gives him treats, hugs him. She never yells at him like she yells at me." Officer Riley's brows knitted together. "Do you think he's in danger?" Emma shook her head quickly. "No, she loves him. She takes care of him." She swallowed hard. "But I'm scared for him. I don't want him to grow up thinking this is okay." Officer Daniels took a deep breath. "Emma, do you think Noah knows what's happening to you?" Emma's lips pressed together. "I don't know. He's little. Sometimes he sees me doing all the work and asks why I can't play with him. But he doesn't understand." A tear slipped down her cheek. "He's the only reason I stayed as long as I did. I didn't want to leave him alone." Officer Riley exchanged another glance with her colleague. This wasn't just about Emma anymore. There was another child in the house. "We need to act fast," Officer Daniels murmured under his breath. Emma looked up at them, her heart pounding. "What's going to happen now?" she asked, fear creeping into her voice. Officer Riley gave her a reassuring smile. "First, we're going to make sure you're safe. Then we'll look into everything. We'll talk to people who can help." Emma hesitated. "Will you take Noah away too?" Officer Riley's expression softened. "We'll do what's best for both of you." Emma's stomach twisted with nerves. She had escaped, but Noah was still there. And if Linda found out she had come here, would she take it out on him? The thought made her feel sick. "What if she knows I'm here?" Emma asked suddenly, her voice urgent. "What if she comes looking for me?" Officer Daniels shook his head. "She won't find you here, Emma. And if she tries, we'll be ready." Emma wanted to believe that. She really did. But deep down, She knew Linda wasn't the kind of person who let things go easily. She tightened the blanket around herself, staring at the door as if expecting it to burst open at any moment. Something told her that the worst was yet to come. Emma sat in the small room at the police station, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. The blanket around her shoulders felt warm, but inside, she still felt cold. What if Linda already knew she was gone? What if she was angry? What if Noah was in trouble because of her? The thoughts kept spinning in her head, making it hard to breathe. Officer Riley sat beside her, her voice calm but firm. Emma, we have officers checking on your house right now. We're going to make sure Noah is safe. Emma looked up, her eyes wide. Will he be okay? Her voice was barely a whisper. Officer Daniels nodded. We won't let anything happen to him. Emma wanted to believe them, but she wouldn't feel safe until she knew for sure. Minutes felt like hours as she sat there, gripping the edges of the blanket. Then, a knock on the door made her jump. Another officer stepped inside, his face serious. We found Noah, he said. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Is he okay? The officer nodded. He's safe. We picked him up and brought him here. Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. As relief washed over her, she let out a shaky breath, barely able to believe it. Can I see him? Officer Riley smiled gently. Of course. A few moments later, the door opened again, and a small boy with messy, brown hair and sleepy eyes stepped inside. Emma, he mumbled, rubbing his face. Emma rushed to him, wrapping her arms around his tiny body. Noah, she whispered, holding him tightly. Noah leaned into her hug, his little arms squeezing her back. Where were you? He asked softly. I woke up and you were gone. Emma pulled back slightly, looking into his innocent eyes. I had to go, Noah, but I came back for you. Noah blinked, looking around the room. Are we going home now? Emma's stomach twisted. She didn't know how to answer that. Officer Riley knelt beside them. Noah, you and Emma are going somewhere safe. You don't have to go back to that house. Noah frowned, confused. What about Mommy? Emma felt a lump in her throat. She knew Noah loved Linda in a way she never could. He was still too little to understand the difference between love and control. Officer Daniels spoke gently. Right. Now, we're making sure you and Emma are taken care of. That's the most important thing. Emma looked at her little brother, her heart aching. We're going to be okay, Noah. I promise. Noah stared at her for a long moment, then gave a small nod. He trusted her. He always had. Later that night, Emma and Noah were taken to a safe place. A warm, welcoming house, where kind people greeted them with gentle smiles. It wasn't their home, not yet, but it didn't feel cold like Linda's house. It didn't feel like a place where she had to tiptoe around, afraid of doing something wrong. For the first time in a long time, Emma felt like she could breathe. Days passed, and she learned more about what would happen next. Linda had been questioned, and officials were looking into everything. Emma had told them everything she could, even though it was scary. She knew this was her chance to finally be heard. One evening, as she and Noah sat on a couch watching cartoons, he looked up at her. Emma, do we have to work all the time here too? He asked. Emma shook her head with a small smile. No, Noah, we don't. Noah grinned, snuggling closer to her. Good. I just want to play. Emma stroked his hair, feeling a warmth in her chest. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't seem so scary. She didn't know what was going to happen next, but she knew one thing for sure. She and Noah were finally free.